When the all-new Mazda CX-70 debuted earlier this year, I made a video complaining about how I thought it was Mazda being, well, a bit lazy. The company originally promised 4 unique new crossovers on their contemporary rear-wheel drive platform. 2 for Europe, 2 for America, the latter 2 just being slightly wider versions of the former to accommodate our fatter American figures. After a pretty significant delay, the CX-70 we ended up receiving was not in fact a slightly larger European CX-60. It was just a CX-90 without the third row. Same size, practically identical interior volume, copy and paste interior design. To pretty much everyone who saw what they had done, it felt like an afterthought. Why give a 2-row CX-90 a different name entirely when you could have just included the option for a third row delete on the configurator? The CX-90 is already available in 3 seating configurations, 6, 7, or 8 passengers. What hurt could one more arrangement do? Mazda invited us out to Palm Springs, California to give us an opportunity to answer these burning questions. But did we get the closure we wanted?
First, let's talk about what the CX-70 shares with the CX-90, because that is the more exhaustive list.
Size-wise, the CX-70 is a CX-90, meaning it is 201.6 inches long with a 122.8-inch wheelbase. That was already on the large side for a 3-row crossover, but it makes the CX-70 the largest 2-row crossover you can buy in America. From the side, everything is identical apart from the lack of chrome trim around the windows. I am still not a total fan of the proportions as you get to the rear of the car. This is one of the most paramount elements where I wished the 70 had diverged from the 90. This just screams minivan, or Sheen from Jimmy Neutron when his brain got too big and his head ballooned in size. The powertrains are also identical, but this was to be expected and is welcome. The CX-70 comes with the brand's new plug-in hybrid and turbocharged inline-6 engines. The PHEV uses a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder mated to an 8-speed automatic designed in-house that does not come with a torque converter. There is a 17.8 kilowatt-hour battery that gives it an EPA-rated 26 miles of electric-only driving range if you remember to plug it in, which you should, but the hybrid system will always make sure that there is some amount of electricity available to contribute to its locomotion. As with every other plug-in hybrid, no amount of regenerative braking and engine-sourced charging will ever be enough to allow you to drive around with the engine completely shut off if you don't charge it yourself. The inline-6 is dubbed as a mild hybrid, but because the 11 kilowatt electric motor pushes the car forward off the line and allows for mild engine off coasting, it is technically a full hybrid. That tiny extra oomph makes up for the lack of a torque converter in the 8-speed automatic, and as I'll discuss during the drive, the whole system has been refined by software for its placement in the CX-70. I have yet to drive the slower turbo model, but I hear it is plenty of power behind the wheel and still retains the silky smooth sensory inputs. Make sure you test drive both tunes though, as the price difference is pretty substantial. Finally, its interior is identical to the CX-90's, aside from the addition of a red leather option that appeals to Mazda's marketing of this vehicle as the sportier alternative to the CX-90. That is not a bad thing, however, as the cabin in the highest trims is a lovely place to be. There's Nappa leather seating, microfiber suede trim in some cases, super comfortable seats with class-leading legroom, and, hot take, a great infotainment system with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I'm a believer in Mazda's setup here, as the control wheel that is required for use outside of those mirroring applications is simple to use and easy to get used to. The menus of the UI aren't so layered that you feel like you're digging a hole to China to get around it. This also retains Mazda's excellent sound system, which was designed by Bose and uses strategic placement of the speakers to avoid vibrations and loss of clarity. It really is one of the best systems for under $80,000, and as an audiophile and student of audio engineering myself, I feel confident in saying that.
It differs from the CX-90 in its front-end design, which has a unique lower fascia that to me looks a lot like a Jaguar F-Pace. Not a bad place to draw inspiration from.
The wheels on the upper trims are unique and look properly sporty, but if you go with the lower trim, you're stuck with the CX-90's same unflattering base wheels. It gets unique color choices such as this new for the brand melted copper, my personal favorite. Inside you'll also find additional features such as a reverse trailer hookup camera, remote releases for the second row seats in the trunk, and a new larger, brighter, and highly informative head-up display. Finally, there is of course the standard 5-seat configuration. Without the third row, you'd think cargo space would grow a bit. but all you actually get in return is a small storage system under the floor that only adds about 1/10 of a cubic foot to that figure.
Oh, and while it drives pretty much identically to the CX-90, there is a bit of a weight savings thanks to the redaction of the third row. However, you don't really feel it. Mazda said they really did some minor tweaks to change the suspension tuning to adapt to that weight change, but I will say, even though this is still a very heavy car like the CX-90 and a long car at 200 inches, yes, it feels like you're commandeering a ship, you do feel like you're commandeering a pretty nimble ship. The suspension is tuned towards the sporty side, and when you're driving on roads like this that are very windy or roads that have a lot of elevation change or undulations, the suspension stays really flat and firm. Not firm enough that it's brittle and uncomfortable, but flat enough that you actually ride all of those waves and you take the turns with a lot of confidence. So, just like any other Mazda, this is a really fun to drive car for how big it is. Now, after driving the CX-90, I came away being more of a fan of the plug-in hybrid powertrain, mainly because I thought it was snappier off the line, it had better acceleration or a smoother acceleration experience than the inline six. But now having tried it in the CX-70, they have fixed all the problems I had with the inline six. When you floor it, especially in sport mode, it immediately goes. If you're already moving, it downshifts right when you need it to. I no longer feel like it hesitates as much. And Mazda told us that that is all in software updates. So if you have a CX-90 and you have those concerns as well, eventually you will be getting a software update that will probably fix all of those troubles.
This thing also has Mazda's most advanced highway driving features. This and the CX-90 are the only cars in the lineup to have full lane centering on the highway. But keep in mind, this is still a level 1 hands-on system. Where our long-term CX-50 only has lane keeping assist, which nudges you back into the lane if you start to drift over the lines, this system actively steers you through the curves of the road. Speaking of safety features, the CX-70 comes standard with automatic emergency braking, a blind spot monitor, rear cross traffic alert, lane departure warning, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise, a driver attention monitor, safe exit assist, rear occupancy alert, and front and rear parking sensors. As you go up the trim ladder, you'll find things like a more robust emergency lane keeping assist feature that detects head-on collisions, traffic sign recognition, a traffic jam assist function, front cross traffic alert, a smarter active braking system for additional scenarios, and the 360-degree camera system with that trailer hitch view and a see-through hood view. The CX-70 is essentially priced the same as the CX-90, but you don't have the option of the entry-level 3.3 Turbo Select from that car. As a result, the price range for a CX-70 Turbo is $41,900 for the preferred trim, all the way up to $52,650 for the fully loaded Premium Plus trim with the most expensive paint, premier tow package, and the digital rearview mirror. The Turbo S Premium trim gets you into the higher output tune for $53,905 and goes up to $59,700 for the fully loaded Premium Plus trim with the most expensive paint, the premier tow package, and the digital rearview mirror. Want the plug-in hybrid? The situation is the same here, as there is no entry-level preferred trim. Prices range from $55,855 for the PHEV Premium trim to $61,000 for a fully loaded PHEV Premium Plus trim with the most expensive paint, essential tow package, this one maxes out at 3,500 pounds of capacity, and that digital rearview mirror. Mazda also offers a ton of factory and dealer accessories on top of those prices that can alter the appearance of the car or make it more dog or adventure ready.
So, did Mazda do enough to differentiate the CX-70 from the CX-90? Does this model make sense considering the package it comes in? According to Mazda, this is exactly the kind of vehicle customers have been waiting for. These customers were looking for something bigger than a CX-50, but not with a third row. The stigma that comes with having a third row is that you're driving a mommy mobile, and these particular customers were identified as empty nesters, people who wanted something a little bit sportier, but still very practical. That's why Mazda claims they can justify the CX-70 name. They didn't want customers to be confused by the CX-90 without a third row, and they wanted to make sure that people knew that this is not the family mommy mobile type car, this is the empty nester's dream car. It's fun to drive, it's got a lot of cargo space, and it has excellent powertrains. So that is why we have the CX-70. Plus, the CX-60 in Europe, which everyone believed this would just be the wider version of, was apparently too close in size to the existing CX-5 here and the CX-50. So again, this is way bigger, and it made more sense for Mazda at the end of the day. the CX-70 gives Mazda bragging rights over the title of the industry's largest two-row crossover, one that rides on a rear-wheel drive biased platform, is available in a plug-in hybrid or a turbocharged inline 6-cylinder engine, and, well, drives really well and feels really premium on the inside. It is certainly a unicorn in a segment in the mainstream category that is dwindling every year. It's up to you to determine if you are one of the target customers that Mazda is going after. They've already told us they don't expect this to outsell the CX-90, and I certainly wouldn't have expected it to myself, but it does have updates and changes over that model that I think are worth taking a look at, but at the same time, it doesn't cost that much different than the CX-90. So would you rather fold down the third row and just call it a day with the CX-90, or get this, something that looks more like a Jaguar in the front and has a few extra cool colors and features that just might seal the deal for you? Let me know in the comments below. I'm very curious to see what your reaction is, because going into this, I had very mixed feelings, but I do like this car. I already liked the CX-90, so building off the bones of that car was perhaps maybe smart of Mazda, not lazy.